Cultural Immersion Project, Immigration in America by Group 11. Hi, my name is Ashley Otero, and I'm a junior in biological engineering with a concentration in cell and molecular biology and a minor in biotechnology.
Hi, my name is Jin, and I'm also a biological engineer concentrated in cellular and biomolecular engineering, also a minor in biotechnology.
Hi, I'm Joe. I'm a senior in biochemistry, doing research in genome regulation in cancer and immune diseases.
Hi, I'm Dan. I am a senior in biological engineering, and I am concentrating in food process engineering with a minor in food science.
Okay, so the first part of our project was to watch a movie, and we chose Lost in Translation, which focuses on the lives of two people. One is Bob Harris, played by Bill Murray, who is an aging movie star who goes to Japan and faces a lot of cultural difficulties and everyday challenges, such as language barrier and inability to communicate with people such as the photographers. It also focuses on Charlotte, and she's a young college graduate, kind of abandoned by her husband, who is also forced to adapt to a culture completely foreign to her. And so that was our first part of our cultural immersion project. And now the main part of our project is immigration in America. America is a country founded by immigrants. People left the comfort of their home due to religious turmoil or food scarcity in the hopes of starting a new future. Despite these truths, immigration in America is a very heated topic and has been for several decades as people try to figure out just how it should be approached. The process of citizenship is a really long one. It takes about anywhere from a couple of months to 10 years to actually obtain a green card visa. And so once a green card visa is obtained, the immigrant must be a permanent resident of the United States for at least 5 years before they can even become eligible for getting eligible for the naturalization process. And so once that happens, they are able to apply for the naturalization process and obtain citizenship, which can take anywhere from a couple of months to 2 years. And so getting a citizenship can take upwards of 20 years in America, which makes it a really difficult process. As the member of the Purduettes, I have had the privilege of actually being a part of 2 naturalization ceremonies and performing in them for the past 2 years in Tippecanoe County. And listening to personal accounts of how long the process is very enlightening and empowering, and at times heart-wrenching. It is a difficult and deeply personal process, and the ceremony signifies a great feat in the lives of many. Each immigrant states their name and their country of origin, and this past year there were roughly 40 countries represented at the naturalization ceremony. And all types of people come. There are the very old people, there are young adults, there are families, and there are refugees. Just 2 years ago, the first naturalization ceremony I attended, the majority of people actually came from Myanmar due to the recent genocide on the Muslim minority in the country. And so just situations like that are why people want to become American citizens. As you can see on the graph here, there has been an upward trend of immigration in America from 1970 to now. And we currently have 13.3%, or about 42.4 million immigrants in America. Part of our project is to focus on immigrants, but we don't really have access to immigrants living on a college campus, as international students are granted temporary non-immigrant status to obtain their education, so they are given that opportunity for the duration of their time here. But we figured that it was still a good population to pull from because they are still facing many of the culture shock and limitations that immigrants face, such as ineligibility for financial aid and the inability to work for U.S. companies. So we're going to focus very largely on the international population at Purdue in an attempt to best understand what it's like to be an immigrant. As you can see on the graph above, roughly 1 million, or 5% of the student enrollment in the U.S. are international students. And a study conducted in 2006 by Jenny J. Lee and Charles Rice of the University of Arizona attempted to unveil the discrimination international students face on campus. So this research used qualitative results as opposed to quantitative, and they took a lot of stories from students at university. And so the study linked neo-racism, or the racism of cultural and national order, as the main form of conflict felt by international students. And so the categories they examined included international student acceptance and social integration with the campus, community, faculty, and classroom interaction issues, employment issues, off-campus intercultural issues, and perception changes of the U.S. And overall, the statements students made on their experiences relative to the categories were negative by approximately 2 to 1. And some more cultural issues that international students have outside of the neo-racism were discovered in Frank Haber and Stephanie Griffith's article for the European Association for International Education, as they identify 5 ulterior stressors outside of neo-racism. So the number one is kind of obvious, it's language barriers, so it makes it difficult for international students to present or to write essays and to even form bonds with their fellow students. And this can cause a lot of high stress. There's also acculturative stress, which is moving to an unfamiliar environment with exposures to enormous degrees of cultural diversity in and out of the classroom. And this additionally contributes to high stress. A lot of the students don't receive much financial aid when they come here, so their parents are putting a lot of money into their education, which leads to higher expectations and unrealistic goals often set and more pressure by their parents to achieve an education and a degree. Additionally, if there's a crisis that's originating at home, it's very difficult for these students to go home and deal with it, so that can lead to more stress. And so the 5th one, which is illness, actually relates to mental health more so. International students are vulnerable to developing mental disorders such as anxiety, mood and stress-related disorders, or depression. And so we're going to kind of focus on that in our project.
So the goal of our culture immersion project was to learn about some of the problems and difficulties that international students or students studying abroad face as they adjust to their new circumstances. So basically, as we know, living in a certain environment for a large amount of time and moving to a brand new one where the culture is entirely different can prove to be a large mental burden on those students. They may have trouble adapting to their new environment, face homesickness. They may have a hard time practicing their religion, or feel discriminated against by other students, or they might have a hard time finding friends due to communication issues. So basically, we're curious to see as to how the culture of the United States would affect those students. So here are some assumptions we made. So Purdue's Division of Diversity and Inclusion offers a handful of resources for international students and the like to become educated about cultural differences and support for successful integration into their new environment. We assumed that the combined resources among all the cultural centers and offices would be sufficient for those students to adjust to their new lives. And it is very important that Purdue offers this assistance to these students because, of course, most of these students will be facing some difficulty adjusting to the new culture that they're placed in. Despite some obvious difficulties adjusting, we also assume that most of these students look forward to their time studying abroad or living in a new country and would be able to adjust accordingly.
So here's some facts about the international students at Purdue University. The international students are Purdue is ranked the 4th largest international student population in a public United States institution in 2018. They approximately have 20.5% of total enrolled students, or 8,936 undergraduate students are internationals, with a total of 128 countries represented in the student body at Purdue University. Purdue is also composed of 39.8% of international graduate and professional students. However, since 2014, the number of international student enrollment has decreased steadily for not only at Purdue University, but also throughout the country. So upon research, Purdue offers various cultural and resource centers such as Asian American and Asian Resource and Cultural Center, Black Cultural Center, Diversity Resource Office, Latino Cultural Center, Native American Education and Cultural Center, and international student scholars. To experience resource centers provided to international students at Purdue firsthand, our group visited 3 cultural centers, as you can see up here, including the Black Cultural Center, Latino, and the Asian American and Asian Resources and Cultural Center, to talk to various faculty members regarding their mission and goal, and to tour the 3 cultural centers to learn the history, as well as events that occur in each center. First, the Black Cultural Center was established in 1969 and is considered the oldest cultural center at Purdue University. It offers daily study tables as well as weekly activities available such as meditation and yoga, group workout, counseling and psychological services, freestyle battle, and such. The second cultural center we visited is the Latino Cultural Center. It serves as resources to Latinos as to celebrate and enhance understanding of Latino culture through history, accomplishments, growth, and empowerment. This center was established at Purdue University in 2003 and is considered the second oldest. They have 3 areas of focus, which include recruitment, retention, and education. And one interesting fact about the Latino Cultural Center is that they moved 3 different times at Purdue University, and when they moved to their new home, they added a lot of vibrant colors to reflect the culture and give more of a home-like vibe. They also have study spaces available at all times for students to walk in and have separate graduation for up to 10 students who attended the Latino Cultural Center. The last cultural center we visited is the Asian American and Asian Resources and Cultural Center, which was established in 2015 at Purdue University. It is a dynamic cultural center seeking to remain as a source of education, integration, and support for students both in and out of the classroom, comprised of more than 40 ethnicities, nationalities, and cultural backgrounds. They also offer various activities such as hip-hop dance marathon, origami, presentations, and keynote lectures by prominent figures of Asian American and Asian communities. During our visit to the 3 cultural centers, we shortly interacted with students utilizing the cultural center, asking their satisfaction regarding the center and the provided resources through completing the survey our group has made.
Our group performed a survey to figure out exactly how international students adjusted to the new culture that Purdue provides here in the United States. So first we want to look at the initial shock of arriving to the new culture. A lot of them found that there was an initial shock, while some did not. This is expected because college is a new and interesting place to be. You learn a lot and you find out a bunch of new things. So next we moved on to how they feel their culture has been affected during college. A lot of them have said that they have been able to keep their culture, which is great news. We think this is from the availability of all the resources available on campus, such as the cultural centers and individual support groups. Then we move to, have they ever felt discriminated by other students? So this could include religion, race, and any other aspect. It was about half and half, which is kind of sad to see. You would hope it would be less than that, but there are individual groups who really do harness a hatred towards international people, and you can always just hope to make that better. Next, we looked at a scale range of how people have been affected during their time here at Purdue. So we looked at where they're originally from. We have some from the United States, some from Germany, some from South Korea, and some from Thailand. It was very interesting to see the broadness and how many people were able to respond. Even though it was a small sample size, we do feel that we can get a little bit of insight. So we looked at how difficult it was to adjust to the new culture of college. It was a widespread between very difficult or very hard, very easy or very difficult, with no individual point really standing out. But when we moved to how Purdue has accommodated it, Purdue, a lot of the values really hit the median range, so it was about an average, with some on the very high side. This is great news because we always like to think that Purdue is able to and does offer this help to international students, and we can see that we're sitting about average at what people expect, and in the future we can only hope to go up from here. So overall, upon reflecting all that we've experienced and all the survey results we've seen, we did see that upon visiting the cultural centers and talking to the various clubs and people there, many of the cultural centers are underutilized but still offer great support. and many students would rather join a individual club that relates to their personal culture, personal place of origin, rather than go full force with the cultural center. The survey also shows how Purdue affects individuals here. It does a decent job, but can always do better. And most incoming students do experience a cultural shock, but do end up settling into their new surroundings.
Upon personal reflection, so I'm a junior and I've never been to the cultural centers until this year, and I've always wanted to go, but a lot of that actually stemmed out of fear of not fitting in with the students, which is kind of ironic because that's how they feel on campus as a whole. But I was really surprised and pleased with how welcoming everyone was at the cultural center. Every single one said that they allow anyone. It's open to all students on campus. And they were really encouraging of coming back and actually participating in the activities offered. The cultural center that stood out to me the most was the Latino one. As a Hispanic American, that is something that's really close to my heart. My father, when he left New Mexico, he cut all ties with the Hispanic culture, so I've never been able to experience it. And so getting to actually see that and just a little bit of it at the Latino Cultural Center was really enlightening.
It was very interesting to see how the cultural centers approached individual groups. They were very willing and supportive to even help those who do not regularly identify as their designated culture. It was great to see their mission of giving weekly events to help expand, teach, learn, and overall promote what they do for Purdue's campus.
I also enjoyed visiting various cultural centers, learning about their weekly events and their special events that they offer. However, despite numerous resources and centers given at Purdue University, I've noticed that many international students do not utilize these cultural centers, but rather join organizations of their native countries, which will make their transition process harder and distancing themselves from the native students. And I believe the reason could be due to the lack of advertisement of these cultural centers, which can be something that the centers can improve upon for the future.
So I think it's very nice to see Purdue offering so much assistance to these international students through the various cultural centers. I believe that if a student is having some anxieties or difficulties adjusting to their new life here, then the various resources will be more than sufficient to help them with their difficulties. But I believe that many international students do not recognize this, and they do not utilize the centers as much as they could be.
So future endeavors for the group is to look at more of the broad population around Purdue, such as West Lafayette and Lafayette, specifically the immigrant groups. So seeing how they've adjusted to not exactly college culture, but overall just American culture. It would be interesting to offer a entrance and exit surveys for many international students and study abroad students to see how they feel they've started their individual program, whether it be college or study abroad, and how they feel coming out of it. Overall, study abroad programs should require some part of cultural embracement in their program. So whether it's in Australia, they go visit some center there, or whether it's in Italy, they go visit or embrace their culture individually. And overall, we wanted to assess cultural aspects of a group of international students over a year, so it's more of an in-depth view of a certain group and seeing how they adjust and pretty much grow over the course of a year. And then finally, we hopefully would like to advertise the cultural centers to many people. They are great sources of information and help.
And these are the references we used, and we thank you so much for listening to our presentation.